Hey, Editing Monique here. And I just wanted to let you guys know that this interview, this podcast interview that you're about to watch was so good. He and I just kept talking, and I had to break it up into two parts. So, what you're about to see is part one. And then the next week, I will upload part two. So make sure you have subscribed and turned on your notifications so you do not want to miss part two. So again, enjoy. It is good. It's good. Well, you talked about, now you said you're going to stop preaching. You're going to retire at 68.
68. I want to be retired on the beach somewhere. Because I don't want to overstay my welcome. I see a lot of pastors. I never want to be the pastor that you have to roll me out of my church. You're not gonna roll me out. I'm walking out by, and then I'm gonna live 20 years after me walking out healthy. I want my grandfather anointed. My grandfather, 84, 85, still out here. He was carrying boxes this past weekend for the graduation. That's what I want. Wow. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not gonna be, Dr. Justin Wade is coming revival, and I'm 83 years old. These people bored. Y'all got to help me up the steps. Now I'm up there just prolonging with all these old stories. I ain't got really nothing to say other than these stories. I'm relying on my history to get me through the nights. The devil is a liar. 68. I don't care where I am. But see, bye. Can you come to teach at the seminary?
I'm retired.
Y'all should have did that when I was 32. Because I can't mentor nobody. You got any advice? Stop when you hit 68.
Welcome to the Burned Out Preacher Podcast, where we have frank discussions weekly on ministry struggles and how many of us in the ministry have gone from overwhelmed and exhausted to calm and equipped leaders who love being in ministry. I am your host, Monique Addison-Stinson, burnout prevention coach for ministry leaders. Are you ready to overcome burnout? If your answer is yes, then keep listening. All right. Hello and welcome back to the Burned Out Preacher Podcast. I am your host, Monique Addison-Stinson, burnout prevention coach for ministry leaders, and I help overwhelmed and exhausted ministry leaders go or become calm and equipped leaders who actually love being in ministry. And today we are continuing our series. It is time. It's time to talk about ministry burnout. And I have a new graduate as a guest today. And he is going to introduce himself to everyone. So come on, grad, tell everybody who you are.
Thank you so much, Reverend Monique. I'm Justin Wade. I am a recent graduate of Livingstone College in Salisbury, North Carolina, where I received my Bachelor's of Arts degree in religion and philosophy. On my way now to Duke Divinity School for seminary to receive my Master's of Divinity degree. I'm an associate minister of the Greater Fellowship Missionary Baptist Church in Charlotte, North Carolina. My pastor is Dr. George Shears III. I've been in ministry now for 12 years. Started preaching at the age of 9 and licensed at the age of 15. So all my life, it's been preaching in church and hooping and hollering. So it's been a joy. It's been a joy.
What?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Preaching at 9 and licensed at 15.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's a whole nother podcast.
I know, because I have to bring you back on to talk about that one.
Yeah. When you start preaching it when you're really young, it's like they're gonna stand because you're cute.
Right.
You get older, you need to have something to say.
Okay.
Like you need to have a word. So yeah, it's been a joy, ups and downs. And so this conversation about burnout from a young preacher perspective is really, really, really good. So I'm excited about today's convo.
Listen, let's get into it because you hit it exactly where I wanted to start, because as I was looking and deciding who I wanted to invite on, and you and I have never actually met. This is our first time meeting. We're Facebook friends, but never actually met. But I wanted to get a younger preacher's perspective on burnout. So I always start out with what's your definition of ministry burnout? So let everyone know what your definition is.
I would say my definition of ministry burnout is when your body and your mind are no longer in agreement to do what you have to do. And for some people, it can just be the body. For some people, it can just be your mind. For me, my mind and my body are like, we're both tired. And so I just, all right, well, we're going to shut down for about maybe a week or 2 weeks because my mind, I'm not focused on preaching. I'm not focused on going to the meeting. I'm not focused on being present for whatever event. My body, either I'm sick, fatigued, drained all the time. So then that, of course, goes right back up to my mind because it's like, if my body is not in shape and in fit for it, I'm not going to feel like doing it.
Right.
So, and preaching a lot does that to both body and mind.
Right.
And we, everybody talking about they want to be a preacher in itinerant ministry. And I'm over here like, are you sure this is what you want? Like, it's fun to look at on Facebook, but after I get through, I have a headache. Exactly. And when you do it every week, I mean, and for example, like this year, since the 5th Sunday in January, I have not stopped preaching. There's not been a week that's come where I have not preached at least 3 times within that week. So sometimes it's been 1 time, other times like during the Easter season, I was doing everybody's 7 last words. And I concluded that this was going to be the last year I do 7 last words. It's just no, because service is long and pre-recording, none of that no more.
Right.
So we don't have time. So, but and it was taxing. Like, man, the voice, your throat, you're worried about, okay, you got to learn how to pace yourself. And then at the same time, people want you for your style and for your content. But if you got the content and not the style, you flunk. You got the style, not the content, you flunk. You end up trying to balance, okay, what I'm going to give more of you today because I want to still go to sleep and watch a movie after all this is over.
Okay.
So this week, well, by the time this is aired, it was past, but like I canceled on Sunday. I'm going to go out of town. I'm going to relax because I got revival next week. So you know what I'm saying? Right. You got to take that time. So I was in ministry burnout just when your mind and your body are both agree.
Yeah.
We're not going, even if you try to make us.
First of all, I love everything you said because, and this is the first time I heard someone say the mind and the body aren't agreeing because there is this mind-body connection. And a lot of times our mind would tell us, no, keep going. And our body will say, not. Or vice versa. Our bodies will keep going and our mind was like, you need to stop. But once they agree, once they're on one accord,
you feel it too. You feel it.
Right.
It's like your mind is telling your knee hurt today. It's like, cough one more time from the chest.
Absolutely.
Because he'll need to be out there to begin with. Yeah. And we try to be super black preacher, especially us men. You better preach through it, Doc. Preach through it. What?
Right, because there's this. There's this hustle mentality.
Like,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's this hustle mentality in preaching.
Yeah.
And it's
and I take my hats off to my women colleagues in ministry because often when we talk about ministry, but I'm not saying it doesn't happen with women in ministry. But I see a lot more on my social media, more Black women in ministry prioritizing vacationing than we as Black men in ministry. Yeah. And that's for a whole number of reasons. And again, that's podcast number 3 that we're going to do. But it's like, no, if I can see like one of my big sisters in ministry, Dr. Zuleika Adams out of New York, I always see her like, hey, we at the beach. Like we are having a good time. Some of my other colleagues and friends, in the lab,
Right.
working on my sermon outline. Dude, it's June. Like, where's the hotel at? Where's the spa day? We going. We out. Find something to do. We're tired of the lab. You know. So
Why is that? Why do you think that is?
because we are so okay. I don't want to get in trouble, but I'm gonna say this.
Say it. Let me get
We are, as Black men, we are conditioned keep going. That is intensified 10 times more in Black church.
Right.
Like, we may take a vacation, pastor, and not, show up, but especially now with live streaming,
Ooh.
Negro, you better be there because we're gonna be watching on the plane, and you got to go just as hard. So we are conditioned, and we are wired. Our forefathers and foremothers in ministry, for men in particular, our forefathers in ministry, they did not take sabbaticals like that. I mean, people did it, sure, but it was not a wide note. You were more known for going to do the citywide revival when you left out of town than you were for taking your wife and your kids out of town for vacation. A story I'll drop here. One of my good mentors, Reverend John White, had the privilege of meeting Bishop G.E. Patterson in the airport. Bishop G.E. Patterson was preaching a revival. They go to the airport. They met up at the same time. Bishop was leaving, heading to another assignment, and Reverend White was headed out of town on vacation. So his child noticed, Reverend John White's child noticed Bishop Patterson, and was like, "Hey, Daddy, he just finished preaching revival." So they ended up talking, and Bishop Patterson said, "So where are you and your family headed?" John White said, "We're headed to," I think they were going to Florida. He was like, "Oh, really? For what?" He was like, vacation. Bishop Patterson, who I think at this time just became the presiding prelate of the Church of God in Christ, he had said, "It has been 20 years since me and my wife have gone on a vacation." Now that's Temple of Deliverance. I command you, be healed, be delivered, be saved. That's Bishop Patterson. And he had talked about how all of the flights, all of the hotel rooms was to do ministry.
Oh, that breaks my heart.
And it's like, man, so when we go to God and we pray, "Lord, make me successful in ministry," I don't think we realize what we're praying for.
Right.
Because, okay, I'm gonna be successful in ministry, but my wife wants vacation. And so I made up in my mind, number one, I'm gonna stop this when I'm 68. But then secondly, when it's vacation time, where we go?
Out.
Because we can do revivals, we can do conferences, but it means nothing if you're pouring from an empty pitcher.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh man, that breaks my heart. I love Bishop G. Patterson.
And you would have never known that.
No.
Because every time he got up, he poured out.
Yes.
And his wife had an awesome relationship, but it's like that behind the scenes to not have been able to vacation the way he really wanted to. But everybody who profited from his ministry could go on the vacation.
Absolutely.
And so it's like, physician, can you heal yourself? You got to take the time for you in this thing. Jesus did it. Y'all take care. Y'all sick. Absolutely. Y'all be sick when I get back. Absolutely. I'm going to the mountain to pray.
And I'm a fast and pray.
Right. And I may not fast while I'm eating this funnel cake, but I'm gonna pray. I'm gonna pray about it. I'm gonna pray over when I eat it. I'll pray over it. I'm praying just like it'll be quick. It'll be one of the quick ones. God, I thank you for this lemonade, this fruit punch.
Right.
Whatever's in your cup, if you over 21, we gonna bless it. Turn water into wine. Praise him.
Oh, bless us, Lord. Well, you talked about, now you said you're gonna stop preaching. You're gonna retire at 68.
68. I want to be retired on the beach somewhere. Because I don't want to overstay my welcome. I see a lot of pastors. I never want to be the pastor that you have to roll me out of my church. You're not gonna roll me out. I'm walking out by, and then I'm gonna live 20 years after me walking out healthy. I want my grandfather anointed. My grandfather, 84, 85, still out here. He was carrying boxes this past weekend for the graduation. That's what I want. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not gonna be, Dr. Justin Wade is coming revival, and I'm 83 years old. These people bored. Y'all got to help me up the steps. Now I'm up there just prolonging with all these old stories. I ain't got really nothing to say other than these stories. I'm relying on my history to get me through the nights. The devil is a liar. 68. I don't care. I don't care where I am. But see, bye. Can you come to teach at the seminary?
I'm retired.
Y'all should have did that when I was 32. Because I can't mentor nobody. You got any advice? Stop when you hit 68.
Right.
Take care. But baby, come on, let's go. You don't want a retirement service? Not unless it's got a mimosa. Bye-bye. Y'all all right. Y'all be good.
I trained y'all good. You okay?
Right. Listen. Nope. That I'm not gonna get no ulcers in the stomach. None of that. Nah. Because let's really talk about it. We see pastors and preachers 75, 85, and you look on the marquee, it says senior pastor. And I'm like, well, Doc, how long you been doing this?
Right.
45 years. And you like, where's the successor? Where's the retirement plan? Where was the, like, all right, while I'm collecting these checks, I'm putting something in retirement so that way when I go, I don't got to, like, what are we doing? Right, 68, man, y'all on the plane. I'm on the plane. Fine. This is good. My church gonna be hurt when I turn 50, 18 more years, and y'all are done.
Count it down.
I want my successor, or even if I can't find one. You know how we as Baptists,
right?
We gotta have these whole process. I don't want to help you. You want to help? Bye, because that's too much. It's stress. Don't call me to do interim work. Once I retire, I want to retire.
Come on now,
because I'm going to
work.
Right? No.
Yeah.
What? My Aunt Rosie is a classic example of what I want to do when I retire. My Aunt Rosie, she retired from teaching for 30 years in New York, and she moved down here to Charlotte. She does nothing. What you doing? Watching TV in this bed, relaxing.
Absolutely.
That's what I want. I want to live out my days just like that.
Absolutely. That's my shero.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. My Aunt Rosie is my ministry retirement prototype.
Absolutely.
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely.
So this is what you do on Monday. What you doing on Tuesday? Nothing again. So we do nothing twice on Wednesday. Now we're going to schedule on Thursday at 12 to do nothing. That's what I want to do.
Okay.
Right. Do nothing. Don't call me.
I may switch sides,
Right.
I'm still do nothing.
Right. I'm going to go from upstairs doing nothing to downstairs.
Right.
But if I'm 68, everything is on the first floor.
That's true. Good point.
You don't even need to go upstairs. I'm having one of them long things that you can pick up the remote with. You stretch it, and it's just go be.
Yes,
have all my grandkids just do it like give me that bottle over there.
Absolutely, put them to work.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love hearing this from a younger preaching pastor or minister. I'll say minister.
Yes, ma'am.
I love hearing this because it needs to start now as you're young so that you can start preparing and planning. Because like you said, you don't want to roll you in there at 85.
No. I don't. That's my biggest thing is I want to, because I don't see the point in holding on when God is shifting. Right. There's so many other people that God is raising up. And I want to, because I know this is a fact for me. With all the preaching opportunities that God has given me, they would not have come if it weren't for older preachers and pastors who, when I was in the office talking with them, said, Wade, we see what God is doing with younger preachers.
Right.
Like three of my best friends in ministry, Tyshawn Brown, Julian Thompson, Antonio Robinson. All of us talking to preachers and pastors now the consistent theme in conversation in ministry is we see that there's this changing of the guard.
Yes.
And so we are being pushed to preach because it's like y'all are my mentor tells me all the time, it's you all's world now. We're trying to prepare you to do ministry, but even that looks different.
Right.
From the 40 years that I have in ministry is going to look different from the 40 years you're going to have in ministry.
Right.
But at least, Reverend Stinson, there is an understanding that, yeah, I don't got to be in here all day.
Right. Right.
I'm heading out.
Exactly.
So I'm under a young pastor. I have older mentors like Dr. Hughes and whatnot. But I mean, you know, it's like some of these older preachers and pastors, some of them are starting to see, yeah, we can retire in this. Okay, the gospel is in good hands. The Black church is in good hands. I still believe.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Absolutely. Let me do you mind saying your age? Telling your age?
21.
21. So I want to know, because I think you're the youngest. Yeah, I think you're the youngest minister I've spoken to, and I am so here for this conversation. It is giving
this is good.
Listen, it is giving me maturity. It is giving me, adulting at its finest. That's what it's giving me, and I'm loving it. What would you? How are you planning? Let me start there. How are you planning for retirement at 68 in the ministry?
So my goal is to be in full-time ministry as a pastor.
Gotcha.
So should the Lord call me to a church, that's one of the very first things I'm talking about in terms of packaging. Okay, so I get the salary is such and such. All right, so we're going to be taking this out for retirement. I'm thinking about now. I'm going in as a single Black preacher, right, but I don't. Lord, if you send her immediately, so because I don't plan on staying in this
right,
single state law.
Right.
So I got to think about, all right, when I get married, and should I pass away before my wife? All right, now I want to make sure that she gets 60%, church get 4%. So I'm having the conversations with some of my mentors in ministry who, like, I want to model. They serve as a model for me what my retirement packages and stuff should look like for when I get older, and that's a blessing. Everybody's able to have that.
Absolutely.
And the reason they have is because they had mentors and pastors in their life who didn't, and so they had to stay and pastor the church, and the membership declined, and now you preaching, and you also preacher, but you preaching nobody, right? Because you didn't have the system in place to exit smoothly. And then also talking about and dealing with investing my money outside of just preaching and stuff like that, having a financial advisor and a financial coach. We need stuff like this. Other people, and we know who other people are, have these things. Why don't we and our people invest in having a financial advisor who could sit down with us and say, what's your 10-year plan? First of all, what's your 5-year plan? What you plan to do tomorrow? You know what I'm saying? To help you budget your money, right? So that when it comes time for you to retire from all of this preaching and stuff, you can do so comfortably and not need to take another engagement because, I need a few extra. No.
I love that.
Yeah.
I actually have a financial advisor from Edward Jones coming on, I think in July.
That's dope. I'll be on.
Okay, perfect.
I'll be on. I'll be watching. Yep.
Just for this conversation, because this is so I'm just going to say this because it's already been made public, but I am a part of the AME Church, and the AME Church right now, there's a big deal about some retirement funds. Be gone. Right. And a lot of pastors were left with nothing. And they didn't do what you just outlined there.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I heard about that with the AME Church. Now that broke my heart. I was like, man,
right.
All that ministry, And I can't let go, because it's like, but you gotta, my mentor told me, you gotta have something outside of ministry.
Diversification.
Right. You gotta, I would love to, God knows my calling is full-time ministry, but I have a wife and I have children. So as a consequence, my money is going to be invested in things outside of ministry.
Absolutely.
So when I'm able to retire, thank you for the retirement package, but I've got potentially millions over here that I'm able to give to my children and my wife. And that's the type of life I want to live. So of course I believe that the church should take care of its preacher.
Absolutely.
That's biblical. But at the same time, the preacher ought to be able to take care of the preacher.
Right.
And because if the church is going to give us the money, okay, now that you got it, what you going to do with it?
Right.
We can't just keep getting tailor-made suits. You see what I'm saying? We got to be able to invest that money into our families.
Yeah, I love that. So I know that just from other pastors, ministry leaders I've spoken with, financial issues is one thing that causes burnout. Another thing that causes burnout is, and I know you're a minister, but another thing, but you do plan to be a pastor.
Mm-hmm.
So when you become a pastor, because I know it's going to happen, when you become a pastor, do you plan to have an assistant? Because this is another thing that burns people, ministers out. They don't have help.
I'm going to maximize that assistant thing. Number one, because I'm going to get on my mom's nerves. So I'm going to get that. I'm going to get my assistant. When my mom calls me, I'm going to say, look, call Lisa down there and you'll direct. So I'm absolutely going to have that. Most of these successful ministers and pastors, I'll say pastors, that I've been mentored by have assistants.
Yep.
Not because they're arrogant, not because they are untouchable. It is hard to manage all these people. Let's say, for example, you pastor in the church, 400 people. That's 400 personalities.
Yeah.
Exactly. Multiple personalities. So you're not just pastor, you pastor in a mega church, okay? Because that person got other people that live in them.
Yep.
Then you have your colleagues that want you to do revival. Yep. Then, let's say you're a young pastor and in seminary. So now I got school.
Yep.
You need somebody who you can trust, who's dependable. You can say, okay, look, take these phone calls, schedule these meetings, schedule these dates. This is when I'm not available at all, not budging. I don't care who it is. I'm not like you need armor bearers. Yeah. And armor bearers can serve in multiple capacities.
Right.
An assistant is that type of logistics armor bearer, if you will. Because if you don't have, like even now, my mother will tell you, she encourages me now, start getting a team together. And I just do itinerant ministry.
Absolutely.
And believe it or not, when I was at Livingstone, my brothers who we came in together as freshmen, we all graduated on Saturday. They really filled in the gap in being someone of that team by default.
Right.
I mean, I had my boy Quentin. He was driving me to the engagements. If it wasn't him, it was my boy Cameron, Jaleel, and Rennie would come. My boy Harold would take the pictures and would record. Octavian was off campus, so he couldn't come with that. But like my brothers really came in, and I'm like, if I were to ever do a workshop on what it meant to actually be on the team of a preacher, I would have them come in and teach it and preach it. And they're like, well, why? Because y'all by default just did that without me even asking, not without me even expecting. So I would have multiple people assisting me because this thing is hard. And with so many people coming at you every single day, when it does not stop, you need a person in place who can say, yeah, pastor's unavailable today.
Absolutely.
I know your grandmother's sick. She gonna still be sick.
Right.
So, just, he can't do it today.
Right.
Or he can do it today.
Right.
I would absolutely, I'm definitely getting this. I have nothing against people like that.
I love that.
Yeah, it's not anything that I think is unreasonable. And my thing has always been for folks with something to say about that, try doing it. Try being a preacher. Just and then don't mess around and get good at it, and then people still want you to come. You know what I'm saying? So just try being a preacher. And then when you are a pastor, it is no, we need an assistant, we need a therapist, but that's another podcast.
Yeah.
So we need all of that. We need that. We need a team.
Yeah, absolutely.
We need a team.
I'm so happy you said that, because what I'm finding as I am speaking to everyone, and I have worked with the other churches. The other churches that I work with, they got systems in place.
Oh yeah. It's got to go through at least 5 people before it gets to the pastor.
Absolutely. And
But,
that thing is
but Black church, Reverend Stinson, we don't do that. Black church, the pastor is the counselor, the therapist, the lawyer when somebody dies, grief counselor, financial planner, the electrician. You know what I'm saying? The technology person. Other church
person.
PR. Right? Brand management. You know what I'm saying? It's like, wait a minute. But you go to it's easy for a Dr. Steve Lawson and a Dr. John MacArthur and even Dr. John Piper to say the job of the pastor is just to preach. It's easy for you to say that.
Right. I
was absolutely told, as great as a preacher you are, that's only 10% of what you're going to be doing. Okay? Look, that's what Dr. Lowe told me. That's what my pastor told me, Dr. Shears. They said, yeah, you can preach. That is 10%.
Wow.
Dr. Adams, who was an assistant pastor to my godfather, Dr. Lowe, this 10% what you're going to be doing. I'm like, but wait a minute. All these books on preaching, that's nice. Right. You need to get books on financial literacy. You need to get books like that. Well, why is that? Because these Negroes are crazy. And in the other settings, there's at least 5 to 6 people on staff. Who, before it would get to a Dr. MacArthur, it have been through Janet, Mark, Matthew,
absolutely,
Luke, and John. It has been through all of these people. But in Black church, it goes straight to the pastor.
Wow.
Because we don't know how to get over the one man, one woman show syndrome.
And it's killing us.
It's killing us, because the moment the Black pastor says, "I've got a team," now he or she think they smelling themselves now. Oh, you think you better everybody? No, I just don't got time for y'all, because it's the same issue,
right?
And like, I'll never forget. I was reading a book on pastoring by Dr. H.B. Charles. He said, "I give you one counseling session, and after that, I'm directing you to somebody else." The average pastor, if he were to say that, there's a meeting saying that he does not care about the members. She don't like nobody. She unapproachable. She can't have no one in her office. We got to vote her out. Wait a minute. Didn't she just counsel him about the same drug addiction? Okay, so why are we doing it again?
Right.
You listen, download the BetterHelp Therapy app, and there is we're not taught that it's okay to have a system. And non-denominational churches do this, church plants do this, but Black traditional AME or Baptist churches, we are not taught to have a system. And that comes from that. Really, when you study that, when you look at it in the 1960s, 1950s, civil rights movement, segregation, Jim Crow stuff, where it was the pastor who had to represent the community and the congregation publicly. Before everybody, the pastor became the fix-it guy. Back when it was predominantly men. If we're gonna talk, let's talk. Back when it was predominantly men, pastoring pulpits.
Right.
He was the fix-it guy. So not only did he pastor the church, but he pastored the whole doggone community. So even if you didn't go to the church and your son or somebody who you knew died and they weren't connected, they could have the funeral at his church, he would preach it. Thus, there were laws and bylaws about people dying and having a funeral at the church who are not members, because we have been conditioned that only one person is the entirety of the congregation, the entirety of the leadership, and that's not even biblical. The whole purpose and point of deacons isn't just to hold the communion tray and to the offering.
Right.
Like deacons were the office of the diaconate wasn't just to vote the pastor out. Okay. Peter said we can't preach and give to the widows.
Exactly.
So we need deacons who will do the footwork.
Right.
In making sure that the people were fed and that widows were taken care of, so that we can give y'all the gospel. But in Black church, it's deacons call you to the church, deacons gonna give you the agenda, deacons gonna give you the plan. Y'all ain't fed nobody since I done got here, but you gonna tell me what need to be on the agenda. And y'all take care, Lord bless. And everything fall. You should have deacons who are trained counselors. Right. That's who we need to start ordaining. Really, we've ordained the wrong people.
Right.
How about we have imagine what it would look like if you had a diaconate board where you had a deacon who was a therapist, had another deacon who was a financial advisor, had another deacon who could possibly do security, had another deacon who could be an assistant. We ordain the folk because of how long they've been there, and they have nothing outside of a shout to offer the church.
Thank you.
And thus the stress of that ministry is on that pastor.
Yep.
And so I'm sure you saw the video of the pastor, predominant church. He sat right there in that bar stool with his mic and said, "I'm burnt out."
I did.
We all saw that video.
Yeah.
Dr. Howard John Wesley before the pandemic.
Yeah.
That's Alfred Street Baptist. That's Alexandria, Virginia. That's Dr. Wesley. That's Can I Push It? That's Can I Get a Witness? Yep. That's Ooh-Wee. I'm tired.
I got to take a sabbatical.
Dr. Matthew Stevenson, for a while during the pandemic. Yeah, all right. I'm tired. Yep. And when I zoomed in on his ministry, he has his team.
Yep.
He has a staff. I got a vice president. We don't do vice president, no Black church. Vice president, the only thing we have is vice president of the usher board.
Usher board. Choir, maybe.
We don't have a vice president over finance. Oh, send down there to the trustee. Trustee Shirley. What's your degree in? What was your degree? Your degree is not even in finance. Right. It's all right. It's okay. Right. Your degree is in finance. Your degree is in art. But you go ahead. And we wonder why the church is falling apart. Nobody know how to write a grant. But so we don't know, we don't know how to delegate, I don't think.
Nope.
And sometimes pastors micromanage because they don't know how to trust.
Oh, that's podcast number 6, I think.
Oh, we done got a few podcasts. All right, that's all right. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. We're gonna do viewership. We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it on Zoom and StreamYard.
Absolutely. Yeah, we need to go live on that one.
We're right. We're gonna do live streaming. Okay, because I don't think we're in the position where we trust the people often that we are putting in these positions. And then my question becomes, well, why did they get the position to begin with? If you as pastor can't trust them. Exactly. We're not looking at resumes, and we're the only entity in the world that does this. You can't go to corporate America and just because you know Billy Bob, you getting the job. No, let's look at submit your resume.
My corporate background is HR, so that's not gonna happen.
Like, imagine how Black church would be if, in order for you to be a deacon, you needed a background check.
Thank you.
You needed to be interviewed by a team of people. Your resume. But no, how old are you? 65? Yeah, you old enough to be a deacon. We got ordination.
Come on.
In December. Come on. Like, no. And now you got white gloves, but there's a leak in the roof. Come on now, good and well Deacon Sam said 85. He can't get up there to that roof. You know that. He gonna call his brother, his cousin to come and do it, and then they mess up the roof even worse. Now we want a building project. Don't you think if we had a repairman on the staff, we would be better? Don't you think if we had a repairman, we should have called somebody from Home Depot to be the deacon, not Deacon Steve. Why Deacon Wade up there? Sit down. You don't need to be up there, Deacon. Deacon, what you doing? Trying to say I did this 40 years ago. Deacon, that little roof you was on top of, this is different. This roof cost $30,000. You can't just put black tape up there. The rain gonna stop. No, it's not. It's gonna leak. And now Sister Betty Easterhat got brown water on it. Her daughter mad. Now it's a fight.
Sister Betty
Easterhat. It mess. It's awful. I can't take it. I can't take it. I can't do it. And now we mad. But when you go to other church, when you go to other church, this is not the conversation. So it's easy for them to say our focus is just preaching.
Yep.
And if we can be really honest here, Black pastors that are produced by other church say I only focus on the preaching.
Yeah.
Because I promise you, they're not, some of these predominant other churches, that pastor ain't doing everybody's funeral.
Yep.
And not saying that's a good thing, but I guarantee you, some of these predominantly nationally known preaching pastors, we can drop names, but I don't know about business. But I would just think, I'm not sure that on a Tuesday at 2:00, this member could call this bishop and schedule an appointment.
Exactly.
But they are a faithful member.
Right. Right.
But that member knows I'm not going to be able to have access to him.
Exactly.
Or because we have some successful Black women in ministry who pastor major churches. I can't handle that right now.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Take care. I absolutely love the ministry of Dr. Kimberly Moore. I had the privilege of meeting her when she preached at our church. When Dr. Moore, I love her system. Dr. Moore, before she even walked in the door, she had 3 people with her. I said, this is awesome. Because that lets me know that back at Emmanuel, before it gets across Dr. Moore's desk, somebody done seen this. I'm not we all watch Preachers of LA. Whether you was a fan of it or not, you watched it.
I did.
Bishop McClendon, Clarence McClendon, had an issue that they filmed where somebody could have got to him. Bishop McClendon walked in that room. He said, how did that happen? My responsibility is to the word of God. Somebody has to be in place to make sure that this doesn't happen.
Exactly.
And he interviewed, or he was in a meeting with his team. Here go people on blogs. I don't see how people, unless you live the life that man lived with a family and kids, you don't understand how important it is for there to be a team.
Exactly.
But in our average Black church, we don't get that.
Yeah.
And we call our pastors arrogant and we call them erudite. And the truth of the matter is you couldn't do what that woman does, even if you tried.
Exactly.
And it's sad.
It sounds like there needs to be not only do we need to teach the pastors and ministry leaders, which is what I'm attempting to do with the Parkers, but it sounds like we need to teach the congregation. There needs to be some type of teaching and training of the congregation so that they can fully understand what the expectations are. So how would you suggest they go about that?
Well, we got to make sure that when we have these church conferences, we're not just sending the preachers to them. We gotta take the diaconate. We have so many associations in every denomination. There's always an association somewhere. Even if Livingstone is an AME Zion school. So there are so many districts. There are so many.
Same.
And all the preachers are going.
Yep.
And even when you have some of the lay people in these positions, all of the stuff that we teach the lay people, it's all, good Bible.
Yep.
Which is fine. But the church got more than just the Bible as the issue. So
Absolutely.
we got to start having, if we're going to have these major conferences, we got to start sending busloads of the church. Everybody need to register. If you hold any leadership position, trustee, deacon, usher, associate, everybody got to register.
I love that.
And then the classes that we have to be practical classes. This is crisis management 101 for church.
Right.
It can't just be how to have a kingdom marriage. Just love who you with, and if you don't like them, don't get with them. We need to know how to budget.
Right.
So if you want to talk about how much the pastor should be paid and you don't know how to budget, I don't need you on the search committee. So yeah, you go sit down. You sing on the choir next week because you can't balance a budget. You've never seen the budget sheet. When's that? Do you know how to work on a spreadsheet?
Exactly.
Do you know the control? So then we don't need you looking at nobody's package. You just appreciate when he hoop because you're not helping the situation. We need to have classes on these things. We need to have classes on crisis management. We need to have classes on how to budget money. We need to have classes on how to evaluate new leadership positions. Yep. We need to start, we need to have classes that are forward focused in terms of newer positions of leadership being prioritized in church. Yes. After the pandemic, you need a pandemic response team.
Yes.
That's a ministry now that you need to have. You need to have an in case of a pandemic worship outline.
Yep.
A strategy. We've got to start equipping. The Apostle Paul says that our job is to equip the saints to work the ministry. Yep. So, the big preacher conferences that everybody goes to, we go to Hampton. Mm-hmm. Everybody go to Hampton. Everybody go to IC3. Mm-hmm. Everybody goes to EK Bailey. We need to have conferences that it can't just be the preachers that go. And even when we go to conferences like Hampton and lay people go, there's got to be more practical classes that are taught that are helping people to understand this is how you work the ministry.
Yes.
We got to have team building classes for pastors. Yes. Build a team. And the team can't just be the associate ministers.
Right.
Well, I got my sons in the gospel and I got my daughters in the gospel. Oh, that's rich. But they all broke. All of them I'm a college student, so I can say it. I wasn't recent college. But let me tell you something. Ever since I was a broke college student, I can't help you. I mean, I'm glad for the sonship. Amen. But when I give that offering, it's $10 for a reason, Pastor. So amen. We got to get cereal. We got to do lingerie. We got books. Amen. We got clothes. Drop my 10. Amen. I'm a tithe. As soon as that salary kicks in, I promise you, my 10% is coming. But until then, hey, look, y'all got cash out? Because it ain't gonna work. No, we're not gonna do it. And I'll be asking God to forgive me because sometimes they would say we need all the preachers to give $100. And I'm like, Lord, let them have a cash app. As soon as they say they do, even though I don't have the 100, they say wave that phone. I got you, Doc. I got you. I waved it. Said my 5 and I keep it moving. You know what I'm saying? So you need a team that is financially capable of supporting the ministry. And that may not always be the people who are in the pulpit. You got to see the value of the pew. Right. And we need conferences and we need workshops that teach deacons how, if you're going to be a deacon in the Lord's church, you also need to be at the civic center. Can't just be pastor. You need to also be at the city council meetings. So we need to have workshops that equip the people to work the ministry. Right. Because I agree with people who come from the other church. I'll be able just to preach the gospel and keep it moving. So we need to have people who are able to do grief counseling. Right. I can't counsel you and get your mama's eulogy together.
Come on now.
And be sane at the same time.
Right.
Because my family needs me.
Exactly.
So we need to train our leadership. Because it may not always be that we need new leaders in. If we could teach old dogs new tricks, okay, we would be in a better position for ministry.
Right.
Because at some point, it can't be, well, we've been doing this for 40 years, okay? That's great.
Great.
But in these 40 years, y'all have had 15 different pastors. All of them could only stay for about 5. Why do y'all think that is?
Right.
Because nobody shifted.
Yeah.
There's a church that the name Reverend Charles Spurgeon is not a name that's unfamiliar to preachers. Pastored one of the largest churches, Metropolitan Tabernacle in England. Over 12,000 people.
Yep.
Legend says that he had 6,000 people underneath and 6,000 in the room. Definitely not. It's 6,000 or 12,000 people anymore. Now it's a relic. Why? Because nobody shifted.
Yep.
And now we will forever talk about how great it was. And Metropolitan Tabernacle is not the only church that we can put in that category.
Yeah, absolutely.
We got some churches today that if we were to really call the roll, people may be offended, but if we were to really call the roll, y'all ain't shift. This is why y'all got 50 people and y'all used to have 1,000.
Right.
Nobody saw, oh, wow, we got more younger people in. So maybe this pew can be changed into this color. Maybe we can put some screens up. Maybe we can start to modernize. Maybe we don't need the big wooden poop because I'm only up here for about 30 minutes anyway. Maybe we can, change it up some.
Ooh, we don't know how C word.
Yeah. I know I cussed. I know I cussed. C
word now.
I know I cussed. We don't know how to change.
Right.
And what we're going to do, Reverend Stinson, when we look back and all we can talk about is the glory days.
As it was.
We've lost the anointing of Issachar. People of the times. I love IC3 primarily because it is one of the most biblically based conferences. And when you look at Dr. Ralph Douglas West's leadership style, like if you want to talk about a leader who is older in ministry and still pastoring, I support that. Him, yes. Bishop Walter Thomas, I love it because you go back and you look at their evolution, they pivoted, they shifted, and they stayed relevant.
Right.
But down in Georgia, you know what I'm saying? Dr. B.L. Spoon, Dr. whoever else. They 85, but they ain't pivot like Dr. West. We don't know how to pivot.
Right.
We don't know how to shift. And we have not become okay that it can be different and it's not bad.
Yes, so true.
Because we keep interpreting change as loss.
Right. Right.
Maybe you gained something.
Ooh.
Maybe you gained something. Maybe you didn't lose. You did something different. And that's not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing.
It's a good thing. It's a great thing. But we don't change.
So what would you...
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I want you to finish.
We don't change because our rules and our systems make us comfortable.
Oh, see, I'm glad you got that in.
What happens is we talking about burnout still, saints of God. We still talking about burnout. This is why we burnt out.
We are.
Because we make the rule, right? We make the system that keeps us stuck. And then when it comes time to change, we justify with the same rule. And I'm out. So we made the rule that we only want a pastor that's 35. Okay. But the pastor that's 21, the young preacher that's 22, young preacher that's 23, or let's use one that we got now. We only want a pastor that's married. Okay. Right. But the ones that y'all been getting that's married.
Ooh, don't say it. Don't say it.
They ain't always as married as you think they are. But that's fine. That's all right. We only want a pastor that's married. So the one that's divorced or the one that's not married and single but has vision, hears from the Lord, can preach the horns of a billy goat, can manage all of these personalities, can move us forward, we're going to say, no, we continue in our search. What?
Yeah, because